Welcome to The Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
Did you know that the average life expectancy in the US is right around 80 years old? That means that once you hit 40, most of us are roughly halfway through our journey. But all too often, people talk about, being over the hill, past your prime. That's not true at all. Midlife is actually the most powerful time to redefine your values, shed old expectations, and create the life you've always longed to live. Welcome to the Abundance Journey Show, where we flip the script on struggle and discover how every moment, even the messy ones, are designed to guide you to greater joy, purpose, and alignment with the divine. I'm your host, Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I'm here to help you recognize the sacred invitations hidden in plain sight so you can live richly and soulfully expressed. Well, today's topic could not be more relevant. Midlife doesn't have to be a crisis. In fact, it's actually one of your most expansive seasons. It's when you can learn how to realign with your core values, honor your boundaries, and live more intentionally. My guest today, Elizabeth O'Brien, is a PhD. She's a UC Foundation professor at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, where she also directs the School of Professional Studies. She chairs the Board of Trustees for the American Counseling Association Foundation, and she's spoken internationally and internationally on topics ranging from wellness and counseling to spiritual decision-making and rural healthcare. Elizabeth is also the author of a wonderful book called The Power in the Middle. It reframes midlife, not as an ending, but as a gateway to a new beginning. She helps women navigate this season with confidence, shedding external expectations to cultivate deeper self-trust and a more empowered path forward. Elizabeth, I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for the Abundance Journey. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This is going to be a lot of fun. I really appreciate the energy that I'm feeling already.
Oh, man. I love the energy of you and your book because you're not about, winding things down. Oh, no. On the contrary, you're kind of winding things up, actually. And I want to make sure that we get to take advantage of your energy big time. So I'd like to do two different little exercises that help us connect our energy. Yours, mine, the entire audience, along with the God of your understanding, what I call the divine. So the first thing we're going to do is take 3 long, slow, deep breaths together. And as we breathe in through the nose, think the words, I am. As we breathe out through the mouth, think the word consciousness. Do the best you can to keep up with me. It's fine if you're not right in sync. It's okay. I'll remind you of the I am consciousness when we get to that part.
Fabulous.
All right. And then after the 3 breaths, we're going to hold an intention. I always point at my heart when I say intention. It's like typing into a spiritual GPS. This is where we're going and how we choose to feel about it. And it's not like we have a script. We're just kind of making this up as we go along.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing is when we take the time to connect our energy this way, through the course of the conversation, it actually materializes. We actually experience this transformation. Now, we're going to hold the intention in silence for 78 seconds. I'm pretty sure I'm the only show that does this. It's a little odd, but it's really important because the current research shows human beings have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, and a goldfish starts life brand new every 8 seconds.
Wow.
Brand new every 8 seconds. Hello world every 8 seconds. So it can be challenging to hold the intention in silence for 78 seconds. And I've got 2 techniques that really work for me. The first thing is I'll take 2 or 3 words out of the intention that just feel expansive and uplifting. It's that high vibration that I'm going for. And I'll repeat those 2 or 3 words over and over again in my mind during the 78 seconds. And then the second thing I do is notice what's happening with my body, because sometimes I'll feel a rush of heat or a prickling sensation on my skin, or an image will drop in. Anything like that, is just a sign that the divine has locked into that new vibration and they're ready to play. Speaking of play, shall we?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's start with 3 deep breaths. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. In love and light, we are so happy and grateful that every stage of life awakens us to realign with our deepest values, boundaries, and truths as we release old expectations and embrace this sacred season as a time of love, wisdom, and empowered new beginnings. Thank you, Divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. That was really interesting. I hadn't had this happen before, but it was really funny. I saw a set of stairs and I was thinking, oh man, those suckers look kind of steep. This is going to be a slog climbing up these things. And as soon as I stepped onto the stairs, it turned into an escalator.
Oh,
And it was just gliding perfectly and easily exactly where I was wanting to go. So thank you for bringing that in, Elizabeth. That's some darn good energy you're bringing in. Did anything show up for you?
You know, honestly, we just so you understand some context for me, we are in our second week here at my university. So I'll be honest with you, what I was seeing was kind of just the open field that we have here on the campus and just joyful students, kind of that same image that I walked into when I was coming into this space and just like the joyfulness. And that was kind of the wonderful image that grounded me today. So thank you for creating that space and that time. I think that that's so important.
You know, we often forget that we can call our shots with the divine. The thing that has been really clear to me that what I've been shown is that we are in charge of the what we choose to create, what we choose to feel. We're in charge of that part. The divine is in charge of the how. Yeah. And they will guide us to the how as long as we stay really clear about what is desired. So, I mean, you have an incredible background. You have done so much with your career as well as with all the speaking and your amazing book. What got you started on this journey and why are you so passionate about sharing this message?
Well, I mean, I think the starting of the journey really comes down to about 4 years ago, my father passed away. And so, you know, that is a hard a hard transition to make. And so for me, in particular with this book, it really came to understand that understanding his life, particularly after it was over, was an important piece of the arc of my own journey. And so that was what started me in terms of writing this book, of thinking about, what would it be like if we had some sort of guidebook that could really help us through the different phases of our life? Not because I am an expert in what any individual's life looks like, but there are certain guideposts that I think that we all can use to help mark our lives and to help us to kind of understand who and how we are, and help us to revise and refine who we are so that we can live our healthiest, most congruent life, so that way our feelings and our behaviors and our thoughts are all in alignment with each other. And I think that really, for me, is something that I've been passionate about throughout my career as a counselor, as an educator, as a person in the world, is really helping people to understand that when we do have that congruency, when that we have that equality between how we're feeling and how we're thinking and how we're behaving, it tends to be that we are more aligned people in this world. So this book is just one piece of that, but that really is kind of, if I had to encapsulate my career journey and my journey so far, I think that that's kind of the message that I do try to spread for folks.
Wow. I love that. And it leads perfectly into my next question, which is a question I ask every single one of my guests. And I've never had the same answer twice, which to me is like perfect because given the work that you do, how do you define abundance?
It's interesting to me because I've had a lot of opportunities in my career, which has been really wonderful. And I think abundance to me is contentment. And so that, when I was fortunate enough to work in inpatient psychiatric hospitals, a lot of my clients had been through a very rough ride. And so what they said is they wanted to be happy. And I was like, I'm going to have to kind of challenge you on that, because I think happiness is juicy and beautiful, and we all really do want to be happy. But those truly happy how they don't come around as often, I don't think. And so really talking to them about, what if we looked at aiming for contentment, and how can you define contentment? And so when I think about abundance, contentment for me is like, I know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. I know that I have enough. I know that I am safe, that my relationships and the people that I care about are safe, and that I am doing the work in this world that I know hopefully creates small ripples, small changes, and it can impact people for the better. And to me, that is abundance. That is really sitting in and knowing it's enough, and that is contentment, and that is abundance to me. I'm not asking for the moon. I like birthday cake. I like, really happy days. I love all of those things. But to me, my set point for abundance is really looking at what keeps me content and feeling good in my life.
Yeah, I hear a subtext here, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to ask you if this is something that's hidden inside. I hear a bit of contentment is also accepting where you are with gratitude.
Yes, I love that. Well, I love that you heard that. Thank you. Thank you for teasing that out. I mean, I do. And I want to be fair, because there are places in my life and everybody's life where you're discontent with where you're at. And I think that that's what makes that notion of abundance and being content. You need the relief of having been discontent, of having had to maybe strive to get to the place to understand and to be grateful for where you're at. So I agree with you. And I would say that we need sort of that sharp relief of the discontent, or the places where it didn't feel abundant, to realize what abundance is. And then also, abundance is such a big word. It makes me think of apples falling out of a basket, right? And that is abundance, but at the same time, it's not all the apples, right? It's not all the things. And I think that that's what you do so well, is kind of that balancing act of abundance is a wonderful thing, but abundance isn't all the things. Does that make sense?
I totally get what you're saying about, because I think of it slightly differently, because a lot of people, when they think of abundance, they think of physical, tangible abundance, right? I have lots of clothes. I have lots of shoes. I have a great car. I have a great husband, I have a great whatever.
Yeah.
And that's all the external stuff, but abundance always starts inside,
Yes.
is my
Yes.
opinion.
Yes.
And so it shows up by being happy about who you are, being proud of yourself, being excited about the possibilities that exist for you, focusing on your skills and your abilities and your talents and your interests, and sharing your love of life with others. That is to me, a profound form of abundance, because when you are showing up that way, I call it grateful curiosity. You step in with grateful curiosity, not knowing what's there, but ready to celebrate life in whatever form it shows up for you. That's when you're more open to receiving the tangible physical stuff. But it starts with that emotional inner vibe to me.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. And the insight I think that what you're speaking to is really the insight to know that internal sort of experience is the beginning. It's the seed. And also, you're 100% right. It's not, you can't buy that, right? Like, you have to cultivate it. So, but anyway, so I don't know. I hope that was a different answer than you've ever gotten before.
Yeah, totally different. Totally different. And it's different every single time, which, I mean, that's kind of like the ultimate in abundance, right?
Yeah.
You can't get it wrong. And there's lots of different ways to look at it. Now, you work with lots of different kinds of people because you're a professor and you're also doing a lot of public speaking. And you also have a lot of folks with your book who are reading your book. And I'm assuming you also do coaching with people.
I'm a counselor. I'm a licensed professional counselor. So I do have a small private practice. So yes.
So over the years, you've probably seen a few common symptoms that people are experiencing that shows they're kind of ready for this tipping point, right? It's all that pressure. It's like the discontent that you were talking about. And I actually personally think discontent is freaking brilliant. It's a form of abundance because that discontent is prompting you to change something, prompting you to grow. It's like a kick in the pants to get you.
It's a catalyst. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. That's a much more polite way of putting it than a kick in the pants. Catalyst is much better. So what do you find are the most common forms of a catalyst that show up in people's lives?
I think that's great. I think tipping points, I mean, just like the literal tipping points of having been trained as a family therapist, again, I work on a college campus. So like when you launch the kids into college or you launch them into school or, like a big change happens with a job change or that sort of thing. Typically those kind of family life changes. And I want to be respectful that, sometimes it's family of choice and the family of choice dynamics have changed. So I think that those changes can really catalyze or create that kick in the pants, as you called it. So that is something. And then, another side of that, which I think I see with a lot of the women that I have been speaking with is, that general sense of like malaise or ennui, that just kind of like that feeling of being stuck or just, at a loss in some form or fashion. And it's like, I'm going to go back to that word of contentment. It's like, I shouldn't be discontent, but I do feel sort of this malaise or this sense of like ick, I guess. It's not very scientific. But those are the things that I hear from folks that then they're like, what does this mean? And that sense of stuckness can really feel hard to sort of push past. And yet at the same time, it's the sense of stuckness that gets you into the place of wanting to do something different or to cast about, to look for the next thing.
You are so taking me back to my own experience because I was blessed on New Year's Day 2005 to have a stroke. And I always say blessed because during my stroke, I got to have a conversation with my higher power. And I got a complete download about how everything works, why we are alive, what we can do to live our best life, and what happens next after this life. But what most people don't know is that a month before I had that amazing, incredible experience with the divine, I was chatting with my husband and just complaining about my life and saying, I'm really frustrated with my business and I don't know how to make some changes. I feel guilty wanting more because so much of my life is awesome, but I just can't figure out how to shift this one thing. So I'm going to stop thrashing. I'm just going to accept the status quo and deal with what happens. And then a month later, I got this stroke, incredible gift, conversation with the divine, super deep insights. And at the very end, they said, are you sure you're done? And I was like, oh no, I'm in the middle of my vacation here in New Zealand and having a great time. And I've got another week to go. And they're like, no. You said you were done thrashing. If you're sure you're done, we can use that ectoplasm for something else. Are you sure you're done? This is what's called a choice point. A little bit of friction to get you to
like
move.
profound. I was going to say a profound choice point.
A profound choice point. And I was like, no, because I knew that I was really close to a big insight, a big shift. And if I chose to stay, I would have to start all over again at the very beginning to get back to where I was. And it would super piss off my husband. So I was like, no. And I heard, great, get back and get busy. And I came out of the stroke with absolutely no damage.
Wow.
So yeah, we are prompted to grow. And sometimes it comes across as kind of a kick in the butt. I mean, the only proof I have that I've had a stroke is the hospital bill. Thank you. Yeah. Happy about that. And I've noticed, Elizabeth, one of the biggest challenges and semi-frustrations that I think we all deal with is when we want our external world to change, we have to be willing to shift something inside us. What have you noticed? Your clients, your patients, your students have to be willing to change inside to have that transformation that they really crave.
I think it's pushing through the fear and the vulnerability. I think that those are two of the biggest things that the other side of change is. It's a sea of fear. It's a sea of vulnerability and being willing to mess up and say, I'm not good at this, or I'm doing something that's completely new. So I think that, as you talked about earlier, I think that's the internal piece that we really have to reconcile with. But, in my job as a counselor, the other thing that we will often teach our students is like in a family dynamic or in any kind of group dynamic, if I am different with you, you have to be different with me. Because the reality is, if I'm giving you different stimuli, you're going to have to react to me differently because I'm giving you something different. So it's not just fear and vulnerability. It's also, how are other people reacting to that change? And then can you manage the fact that people like you to stay the same? They are comfortable with you staying the same, right? We know this. Like we think about when individuals are in active addiction and we've got other people who are enablers. That dynamic is comfortable. It's uncomfortable, but it's also comfortable. And they enable in order to keep things in homeostasis, to keep it the same. So it's the internal piece of the vulnerability and the fear, but then it's also the external piece of the other people around me may function differently around me as I choose to change. Can I manage that as well? Because that's an additional burden for you, and it's an additional burden for the people around you. And that can cause a lot of turmoil. It can be great. It can be wonderful and really fabulous, but also it creates a little chaos.
Yeah, it totally does. And Elizabeth, I want to share something with you that I found to be really profound, because I think a lot of us struggle with that whole self-growth thing because it feels like, well, then it's all about me. And then I'm being egotistical and I'm being selfish and I have all these responsibilities. And who am I to make myself the center of attention, right? We struggle with that inside outside thing all the time. That kind of never goes away. So I was struggling with that as I had come back from my stroke and I was exploring more spirituality. And I was guided to read a fabulous book called Connected, really long subtitle, The Surprising Power of Our Social Networks and How They Shape Our Lives. Fabulous book, Connected. It's written by two social scientists who teach at two different universities. And they were very curious about the whole 6 degrees of separation thing.
Yeah.
And they wanted to find out, how real is this? And so they got a bunch of grad students together, did a massive study, and discovered something that they call the 3 degrees of influence rule. It turns out that you have influence over your friends, 3 levels away from you. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I wonder how many people that is. So I asked Dr. Google, and she came back with a recently published article in the New York Times citing research that states the average American knows about 600 people. And I thought, what? I don't think so. No way in the world. So I asked a couple of friends of mine who are very knowledgeable, and they said, that's really low. You know, closer to 1,000 people. And I thought, okay, wait. I didn't do the math. Some researcher somewhere did the math. Let's just pretend that they have the right number and see what happens. So if you imagine a bullseye where you're at the center of the bullseye and your friends are those 3 rings around you. Well, that first ring is the 600 people that you know. They all know 600 people. So your second ring is 360,000 people. And they all know 600 people. So your third ring is 216 million people. According to the social scientists who wrote the book Connected, everything you think, feel, say, and do ripples out to 216,360,600 people. And then they measured your actual impact. This is where it gets really juicy. Okay. That part was interesting. Now it gets freaking amazing. It turns out that when you're willing to work on yourself and shift yourself into a higher state of being, those 600 people in your first ring are 15% more likely to shift also.
Wow. Yeah.
And those 360,000 people in your second ring are 10% more likely to follow your lead and shift into that higher state of being. And the 216 million people you're convinced not away in the world, you do have impact. They are 6% more likely to also follow your lead and shift into that higher state of being. So yes, you're doing it for you. And there's a lot of people who are entrained in your energy, not just the people that you live with, not just the people that you see every day, because your energy ripples out far beyond you. You make such a massive difference just by being alive.
I think that is so fascinating, and I'm going to have to read that book because I'm like
I know.
I always like another book. But no, I think that's fascinating. But also, it gives me so much hope in terms of, oftentimes in our culture, in the news, we're directed towards the negativity bias. But look at the positivity that can have. Actually, as you were saying that, it made me think like, have I been saying thank you enough? Like, that's literally what I thought about. Is like, have I been nice to everyone? That kind of thing. Just because I think if I was looking at a value that I hold very dear to me, it's to be kind. I think kindness is such an important value and a gift that we can give all the time. And so that's what that made me think of. But I love the frame of that, because not only is it so positive, it gives us such a sense of control and a sense of efficacy in terms of how we can influence our world when sometimes the messages we're getting about our world aren't always positive. So I just really love that frame of reference.
Yeah, I feel compelled to share one other little story with you because we're on a roll here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever heard of something called the 7-day mental diet.
No. Okay. I could always do with I could always do with something new. So.
This is really cool. So the 7-day mental diet was actually invented in the 1930s. And the idea is for 7 days, you do not blame, shame, judge, criticize, or gossip. None of that negative stuff. No negative
how hard that. I mean, that's hard.
It's very hard. And so as soon as you notice yourself doing that, you just kind of flick it off and say cancel, clear, delete, and you shift it into something positive. It's a practice. This is not one and done by any means.
Yeah.
And you don't expose yourself to anything negative. So you don't watch the news. You don't watch horror flicks. You don't, you don't stand around where people are complaining.
Yeah.
No. So I was practicing the 7-day mental diet. And I went to the grocery store. And I kid you not, every single aisle had people arguing. Every single aisle. And I get to the checkout room or checkout line, and I see the headlines. And they're all about a natural disaster. And I overhear people talking about a conflict somewhere. And I get my groceries, I go out to my car, and I sit down, and I connect with the divine. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to be positive here. And you're not helping. What's up with this? And I immediately got the message back. We are guiding you, and you are guiding us. Every time you see something that you don't personally know how to fix, like the homeless situation, starvation around the world, natural disasters, we expect you to immediately envision everyone involved or impacted 2 energetic levels above where they are now. Right now, they're in the flames. We expect you to envision them whole, healed, and thriving, sending them love and blessings. And as you do that, you allow us to support them. We are guiding you, and you are guiding us.
I love that.
Blew me away when I was like, okay, I'll do that. Because so often we think we can't do anything or that it doesn't matter, but energy is the beginning. Mm-hmm. Energy is that thing that leads to the tipping point that creates the outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, I mean, again, as you have said many times through your examples, it's, are you open to the energy, right? Like, are you open to hearing the message and following through with it, which is really hard. I mean, because how often do we get messages and we're like, pause, so
I got to get back to my to-do list. I'll deal with this later. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And some things can't be interrupted, right? It's like when we're getting the repeat messages and you're like, oh, I can't put this on pause. This isn't going to be something that I get to like slough off as not mine. It's mine.
Yes. If it's yours, it will come back again and again and again. And one of the things that I've learned to do, I'll be out walking. I'll be somewhere where I can't write down the messages that come through. And I'm very kinesthetic. I love to write it down. Mm-hmm. And so I've trained myself to just say, okay, divine, when I'm back and I can journal about this, please bring this information back to me. Yeah. And it works every single time. It works because I'm also telling my subconscious mind, you're going to remember this when it's convenient for me to remember.
Yeah,
this.
No, I think you're coding it. I think you're using a very smart, like, okay, I'm encoding this so that way I can come back and gain into my recall. So I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, Elizabeth, you are so knowledgeable. I would love to hear one or two little baby steps that we could take that would kind of get us going in the right direction.
I mean, I think the first one that I think is so important that I think sometimes we forget to do is just to look at our values. Like, what is it that you value? If you do a Google search, you can actually find these wonderful lists of different values, things like artistic and kinesthetic, as you said, is that something that you value? Things like being nonconformist, is that something that you value? And so really looking at a list of values and thinking about what is it that are my top 10 values for myself. And two, another way to frame this is if you look at the list and you find things that really repulse you or you have a very strong reaction to, you might find that those are actually things that you value, just not in the way that you thought you did, right? And so I think that is kind of a first step, is really thinking about at whatever stage of life that you're in, as you're thinking about your next steps, as you're thinking about really stepping into this idea of abundance for your life, what is it that you really value? And then I was actually having a conversation with a colleague today and thinking about too, like, what are the goals that you have for yourself? And we were talking about, and this is pretty common, but thinking about, like, what are your top, say, 10, 15 goals for the next 5 years? And then figure out what they are, rank order them, what's most important. And I cannot remember who said this, but basically look at the first 3. And the first 3 that you want to do, that's wonderful. And then all the 12 that land below that, ignore them or avoid them as much as possible, because those are the things that will distract you from your top 3. So thinking about what you value helps you to think about what are your priorities. And when you hit those priorities, thinking about what are your top priorities, and then what are out of your top priorities, what are the things that you value still, but will distract you from your top 3 priorities? And I think that those are 2 things that we can all do to really help move us forward so intentionally and so thoughtfully, but so often we're on autopilot. So I think if we can take a step back and really think about those things and reflect on them and feel about them, not just think about them, feel about them, I think we'll get some powerful insights into who and how we are as people.
Love that. I absolutely love that, Elizabeth. So good. You're giving us so much gold here. This is really, really rich. I'm taking notes.
I think it's the back and forth, Elaine. Yeah. I'm not going to take all the credit. I receive what you're saying. I receive what you're saying, but I'm also going to give some back. So
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I read about a scientific study, I think it was Harvard that they did, where they asked a graduating class if they had written down their goals. And like only 3%, 10% had written them down. And so anyway, there was a small number that had written them down. The people that wrote them down actually fulfilled their goals, even if they never looked at the piece of paper again. They'd look at it 20 years later and, oh my gosh, those goals actually were realized, because you are encoding this information into your subconscious mind, just like we do with the intention, how we're calling our shots, if we're playing pool, we're calling our shots and we're saying, this is where we are choosing to go and how we choose to feel. And so as we do that in our own lives, looking at our values, looking at our priorities, I love that, because we are programming the universe, the divine, to guide us to fulfill those things. We don't have to work out all the details. Again, our job is to know the what is wanted. The divine's job is to show us how to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, what you bring up there too is I think we have certain like turning points or key points in our lives. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to meet this mark, like whatever the mark is. Like those Harvard graduates, well, yeah, they graduated. They just hit the mark, right? Like that for, 22 years of their lives, it was like, okay, you got to graduate, and ideally you graduate from Harvard. And so, whatever the next thing is, they've just achieved a major goal, which is wonderful. But what we don't think about is like, we have to continuously do that for ourselves. Like, there are the big goals. I want to have a family, or, I want to travel to China, or whatever the thing is. Like, those are pretty easy to kind of keep in our head. But there are other goals that we just don't think like, oh, well, what's next? And so thinking about and being very intentional about what's next. That's why I very much admire people who will do things like vision boarding every year. I think the best time of year to do that is December, because you can kind of close out a year and then you can start the next year fresh. There's just something to that I love, but that kind of gets on that same track that you're speaking to, which is that notion of like the what, like what is the thing for this year, this decade, or whatever it is. But too many of us just don't do that intentionally.
You're absolutely right. And I'm going to actually up the ante on you just a little bit. Top secret tip when it comes to vision boards. Yeah. So there's some friends of ours, husband and wife, and they do a vision board too, but they do it around a doorway. So one side of the doorway is the vision board, the things that have not manifested yet. The other side of the doorway is, we manifested this stuff.
Oh, I love that idea.
When they are looking at their vision board and something's like not coming to fruition right away, or not quite the way they envisioned, they can go back over to the other side of the doorway and look at the manifested side and go, yeah, but we did this and we made that and we did this. And
I can tell you right now, please tell them thank you, because that's getting integrated into therapy now. So thank you so much.
It's really important to affirm to yourself.
Love that. No, I love that idea. Yeah. That's a nugget of, like, acknowledging where you've been. And another piece of that too, if I was reflecting with this couple or somebody else, it would be, how did you manifest these things and they didn't turn out the way, like, what was the surprise in this, right? Like, what was the surprise that it, like, wasn't what you originally thought? And how can we maybe look at some things that you're not noticing over here in the manifestation side that are actually coming to fruition, but it's not the clues that you predestined that you thought would be happening. So
and the divine loves to surprise and delight you.
Yes. In a very tricky way.
And I loved what you were saying about those values that you just feel a tension around, or you feel resistance towards. They're actually huge blessings, because anytime you feel that resistance, that is like a neon sign going, here's a growth opportunity.
Yeah.
There's something really important for you, a big gift for you hidden in this.
Yeah.
Now you get to kind of sort through it and find that gift for you.
Yeah. Strong reactions. I think the hard part about, the notion of like something that might be a strong reaction that repulses you or makes you angry. It's like people, I think, and we're programmed to think about that as a negative thing, but it's like, if we could look at it as a teaching opportunity or an insight opportunity, I think there's power in that, but we have to have a still heart and mind to really be able to see that opportunity. So
absolutely. I see a lot of divisiveness right now in our culture. And it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. If you look at a person or a situation and just really feel strongly, this is not right, that is directing you back inside to your vision, to your values, to your intention. It's guiding you inside. All of this external stuff is always there to guide you back inside to look at, what do I truly cherish and how do I choose to express this?
Yeah.
There's nothing broken here. Trust me. Nothing.
I would agree with you.
So good. And we were talking before we got started. You mentioned a pretty freaking awesome gift. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the book that I wrote has, when I envisioned this book, what I thought about was how could I offer like exercises and things that if somebody was coming into my counseling room, this is what I would do with them. But obviously I can't see everybody, and obviously not everyone's going to purchase this book. And so Bloomsbury very generously has put all of the exercises from my book for free onto the publisher website. And so in your show notes, Elaine, I will get you the links to that and everything so your audience can see that. But it's an opportunity for you all who are listening and watching to download and actually look at some of those exercises. And I think that that could be a really good start as you're thinking about your own journey. If you feel some stuckness in relationships, in your spiritual life, or in leisure activities, whatever, those are some exercises that can really help to guide you into whatever your next steps are.
Oh, beautiful. That is so kind of you. I really appreciate it. And as you say, having the book handy gives it a little more context.
No, but I mean, absolutely, for sure. So,
but that's a really generous free gift. It really is. Thank you so much. So we love to turn the tables here on our guests because we know that when we give is when we truly receive the most. So what is something that we can do to support you?
Oh, so kind. You know what I would really love if your listeners are interested, if you happen to get this book, please do think about putting a review for me for this book, good, bad, or indifferent. Because the reality is, there's always another project floating around in this head of mine, and so any feedback that I get helps me to improve. If that feels a little high stakes, that's completely fine. In the show notes, you'll see my website, and I actually put out a newsletter once a month. I am not going to flood your inbox, but just some insights and some helpful little tidbits and links that I send out to help folks. So either one of those would be wonderful. And I just really appreciate your time and the energy. You delivered on a promise. This has been a blast and a lot of fun. So thank you.
I know. How can it get even better than this? I could keep you all day. That would be good. Well, you've left me with a huge dilemma because I took notes the whole time you were talking. And oh my gosh, you gave us so much gold. I have to pick just one of all the things you had to say to do the Activate Abundance segment around, and you're making my life a little challenging here. I'm just going to say, which is a great thing, a huge blessing.
Okay, good. I don't want to be in trouble. I don't like being in trouble.
No,
so.
No. You know, and that's the other thing that you are modeling for all of us. We are all a huge blessing in the world, and we don't see it. We don't see our own blessing that we're creating just by being who we are. So thank you for modeling that. Oh, brilliant insight. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. Everybody stick around because we're going to activate abundance in just a moment. I mean, honestly, Elizabeth O'Brien freaking rocks. Okay. Can we be in agreement on that? Oh, what a font of information, just like Niagara Falls of information. I so enjoyed this conversation. I really wanted to keep her all day. Too bad she has to go and teach a class. Okay, all right. Step one is gratitude. When you come at life from gratitude, it's the ignition switch to higher consciousness. Gratitude is the acorn of your abundance tree, and it all starts with the energy, right? Gratitude, money, you know, if you want money, money is the energy of gratitude. Yeah. You write your bill because you really like having the electricity on, and the hot water is kind of nice too, right? So gratitude is the beginning of everything. Super grateful to Elizabeth for her time with us and all the gems she shared with us. Step two, acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. And I struggled with this because she gave us so much good stuff. But okay, I really have to focus on that dichotomy that she shared about the internal and the external. When you know something needs to change, and yet you're struggling with being vulnerable and fearful about what's next, that vulnerability and fear tends to hold us back. And then it's the external, which is the concerns about how people are going to react as you do change. And what they see showing up can make them feel like they're less than, or they just feel out of place because they had you in a nice, neat little box and here you're jumping ship. So that tends to be the biggest struggle, and the biggest growth point is where we choose to go through the fear into the vulnerability. This is where grateful curiosity fixes a lot of things. I'm going to tell you that right now. When you choose to ignore the fear, that's just your brain doing its best to keep you safe. And your brain only knows the stuff it's already experienced. The new stuff it doesn't know about yet. So of course it's fearful because it doesn't know what to expect. So instead, you can deliberately step into grateful curiosity and be excited about what's about to come. Okay. That's how you engage with the people on the outside to say, hey, I'm exploring this thing and I can't wait to collaborate with you to support me in this change. You make them a part of your change agency. Yes, very sneaky, very successful. Okay, so step 1, gratitude. Step 2, acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well, all of a sudden, every time I feel fear or I'm feeling vulnerable, that is a reminder to me that I have an opportunity to step into this new experience with grace, with ease, with delight. Remember, the divine is constantly giving you a surprise party. They love to surprise and delight you. That means if it's a surprise party, you don't know what the presents are. You don't even know there are people hiding in there. They're about to jump out and yell, happy birthday, or whatever it is, right? So don't get wrapped around the axle. You don't know how these amazing gifts are about to show up for you. How exciting that you get to witness this joyous unfolding. Step 1, gratitude. Step 2, acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step 4, we're going to activate it. This is where you take a concept and you turn it into tangible physical reality. I found 3 ways to do this. The first way is schedule time to get it done. Now, I count journaling here, meditation, all of those things that take you inside so that you can really get a handle on what's going on for you. Because I don't know about you, but I had a really busy brain. There's a lot of stuff happening up there. And it helps me to write it down, everything I'm thinking about, all the things I'm saying to myself, all my doubts, all my fears, all my concerns, all my worries, get it all down on paper so that I can get an objective perspective on it. And I can thank my brain for doing its best to keep me safe. And then deliberately step into grateful curiosity. Won't it be fun to discover? I wonder who we could talk to about this. I'd love an example of that. I bet the divine's going to show me how, because I'm in charge of the what, the divine's in charge of the how. I bet the divine's going to show me how that could materialize for me. How exciting to witness this unfolding. Step 1, first option, schedule time to get it done. Second way to activate it, it was with a physical trigger, like crossing your fingers, tugging on your earlobe. It's a way to physically, tangibly remind yourself every time I feel fear, I feel vulnerable, that is the divine giving me the, we've got you. It's like if you're surfing and you get that surge of wave right under your surfboard, you're being lifted so you can soar in this moment. And it allows you to shift those sensations in your body and give them a new definition. Because it turns out, true story, there's science that documents the fact that anxiety and anticipation comes across exactly the same way in the body. The same kind of sweaty hands, the same kind of, butterflies in the belly, all that kind of stuff. It's the exact same. It's just the label that we put on it that changes it out of anxiety, fear, doubt, vulnerability, into anticipation. I wonder what the surprise party is going to be. And all we have to do is use that little physical trigger to remind us, hey, I'm walking into a surprise party. Can't wait. This is going to be fun. The third way to activate abundance is to partner up with what I call an abundance buddy. Most people call them accountability buddies. This is somebody who loves you, who gets you, who supports you, who believes in you. They really want to encourage you. And you can kind of enlist people to be abundance buddies just by telling them, hey, I'm trying to show up in a different way. And I know that bad habits being what they are, I may slip back into my old behaviors. And I would so appreciate it if you would point out to me when I am being defensive, when it seems like I'm being a little fearful, when I'm concerned about being vulnerable, and invite me to step into the truth of who I am, step into the delight and wonder that is there for me, step into the possibility of what could be. And I want to daydream with you. And let's just make it really extreme and have a blast doing it, because I'm in charge of the what. The divine is in charge of the how. All right, step 1, gratitude. Step 2, acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step 4, activate it. Schedule time to get it done. Use a physical trigger. Partner up with an abundance buddy. Step 5, celebrate your progress. This is the journey. That's why everybody always says the joy's in the journey. And you're going, yeah, I just want it done. You don't need to just want it done. You don't have to delay gratification. You don't have to wait to feel abundant. You can feel all of that right now. You can savor this moment and feel deep gratitude for this incredible process that brings you into the fullness of who you are. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.